Y'all want to watch two foreign people fall in love? Today we are covering palm trees in the snow. The story opens on an island called Bioko, which is just south of Nigeria, in the year 1970. After a passionate night, the fine Killian now has to return to Spain, but has to leave his lover. Fast forward and it's now 2003 in Huesca, Spain. After the death of her father, Jacobo, Clarence visits her relatives. Her uncle, Killian, is very old now and no longer Juan. He has difficulty recognizing even his own daughter, Daniela. Clarence finds Killian's diary and some letters mentioning money regularly sent to Africa. The letter and pictures piqued her curiosity, but her uncle is too old now to answer her questions. An old woman, Julia, who has known the brothers since they were kids, knows about the letters. Clarence wants to find the person who's been receiving the money, and she's determined to go to Bioko to learn more. Julia warns her that it's a very different place now compared to when it was a colony almost 40 years ago. But since Clarence won't be stopped, Julia advises her to look for a man named Simon. Clarence reads the diary. She learns that in 1954, a young Killian leaves his hometown of Pasalabino to travel to Spanish Guinea. His younger sister, Catalina, hands him a journal where he can write all his adventures. Killian arrives with Jacobo and Sampaca State's new doctor, Manuel. I'll take Manuel and Killian at the same time. Killian's father, Anton, welcomes them. The plantation is run by Mr. Guruz, and Killian is given a houseboy, a native named Simon. Killian is tasked to look after an area on the plantation with another Spaniard named Gregorio. For the first time, Killian sees the cruelty of threatening the natives with a whip whom had complained that he was feeling sick. While looking around the plantation, he sees for the first time a native woman singing and crying, but she quickly disappears. Then he stumbles on Gregorio taking advantage of a woman for money, but then refuses to pay her. A childhood friend named Julia is also on the island. Her father owns a store in town. She's been wanting to hop on Jacobo's plantain for a long time. When they join her family for dinner, the old men talk about sleeping with other women, even though they married. Trifling. Jacobo goes as far as concocting up a plan to leave the party early as a getaway, just to ghost Julia. Then he takes Killian to Santa Isabel, where everyone goes to spend their money on women. Killian wonders if it's true about the stories he's heard about the natives eating a bishop, but the native says not to take the story literally because eating the white man out means something differently. And before Killian knows it, the lifestyle has sucked him in, literally. Later, Julia confronts Jacobo, but Jacobo insists he's not yet ready to settle down. But when Manuel takes interest in Julia, Jacobo starts to feel jealous. Suddenly, Julia's father is fighting a native who is tired of foreigners taking over their land. But the bald-headed man thinks he's improved the island. One night, Killian encounters and kills a venomous snake inside his room. He punishes a man named Umaru with multiple lashings. Simon says he saw Umaru go downstairs last. Then Umaru admits that it was Gregorio who left the snake. Pissed, Killian punches the ugly Gregorio in the stomach. He suddenly faints because of the snake bite, but he's nursed back to health by a beautiful masked woman. Worried about his son, Anton takes Killian to Osa's local community. Osa is a tribal chief and is a close friend. His daughter Basila is getting married to a local named Mosey. Killian is surprised that it was the woman he saw by the falls. A few days later, Killian learns that his father is very ill and will soon die. Basila is a nurse who clings to superstitious beliefs. She advises Killian to let Anton see a witch doctor. One stormy night, Anton confesses his undying love for his wife before he finally takes his last breath. Jacobo is inconsolable. Julia comforts him, and Jacobo grabs her for a kiss. But Julia pushes the man whore away, saying she's already engaged to Manuel. When Clarence arrives in Guinea, she's relieved to find her grandfather's tomb. The estate is now being run by a Guruz descendant. He let her look into the documents before introducing a local named Inako. Guruz orders Inako to drive Clarence to her hotel. They make a detour so Inako can pick up his younger brother, Laha. Laha is nice, the exact opposite of Inako. They take Clarence out for dancing, and they have to be on guard because of the locals. Inako soon loosens up and teaches Clarence how to dance. The next day, he takes Clarence to see the island's keeper. Before they know it, they're getting sand in each other's cracks and crevices on the beach. The following day, Clarence starts to take photos of familiar locations. The locals want her to leave, but Clarence is too stubborn to listen. Then they stumble into an old man. Surprisingly, it's Simon. He can still remember Killian, Jacobo, and Anton, but he refuses to say anything more. Clarence tells Inako that her family used to send money to a woman in Bioko. Then she takes out a photo of Basila. Inako is shocked because the woman in the photo is his mother. He then takes Clarence to meet his mom. Basila, now old, recalls what happened years ago. After Anton died, Killian returned home and stayed there for 3 years. He returns in 1957, and Basila already has a son named Inigo. Jacobo is officially a drunk, and Killian has lost the appetite for sleeping around. The tension between the native population and the Mayo people is rising. Confrontations are much more frequent, and even Killian has to step in to stop one. France and England have already freed their colonies, and Julia expects that Spain will soon do the same. One day, Basila shares that Gustavo, a friend of Julia, is badly injured. They live in such dangerous times they don't even know who hurt him. They work together to hide him in the hospital and save his life. With no one else around, Killian and Basila finally give in to the attraction that has always been there. Killian admits he knew the first time he met Basila that she's special. They continue their affair and meet in the hospital at night for years so he can inject her with his DNA. In 1962, the island of Fernando Poo votes against independence. But Manuel knows it's only a matter of time before things change. One day, Killian receives a telegram saying that his sister Catalina is ill. She's not going to live long. Killian leaves a letter for Basila, and then he returns to Spain. He reads the journal to his sister in hopes of giving her a sense of peace on her deathbed. But honestly, it looks like she wants him to STFU. Killian then decides to stay behind to keep his mother company. When Jacobo returns, he pays Julia a visit and admits he met an amazing woman named Carmen. Julia is happy for him, but they can't deny that they still want to hop on each other. But Julia is loyal to her husband, so when Jacobo kisses her, she tells him to leave. Because of the rising tensions, some workers attack the hospital. Later that night, Basila is walking outside when a car starts to follow her. 2 men beat her up and drag her into a barn. She's horrified when she sees Jacobo approach and join the assault. Jacobo was always the uglier brother. Clarence is devastated when she hears the story. She apologizes for what her father did, but Basila insists that it was not her fault. The next day, Simon finds Basila and helps her. She makes him promise never to tell anyone what happened. The assault was very brutal. It dislocated her shoulder. Then Killian returns. He notices the bruises on Basila's face. However, he visits Jacobo first, who is diagnosed with syphilis and is hospitalized. With how much he hoard around, he's patient zero. Meanwhile, Simon tells Mosi about the assault. Basila lies to Killian and says she got hurt after being mowed down by a pickup truck. When Killian asks for prayers for his brother, Basila admits she hopes Jacobo will die soon. As soon as Mosi learns the truth, he and other locals take matters into their own hands. Killian is terrified when he sees Dick and Pau, the men who assaulted Basila, hanging from a tree. He talks to Ose and learns what happened to Basila. Simon and Ose know about Killian's affair with Basila, and so they warn him not to interfere when Mosi takes revenge on Jacobo. Furious, Killian beats up his brother. It's violent enough for Jacobo to beg him to stop. Killian finally reveals that Basila is his woman, but Jacobo says he was too drunk to even remember what happened. Later that night, Killian begs Basila for forgiveness on behalf of his brother. He even apologizes to Basila in her native language to show her how sincere he is. But Basila is not yet ready to forgive. She tells Killian they can talk the next day at the hospital because everyone will be at Santa Isabel. The next day, all workers are heading to Santa Isabel for a fun time. Killian's truck stops on the road, and he tells the others to go without him. A storm hits the island, and Killian has a gut feeling that something bad is about to happen. Mosi is planning on killing Jacobo that night. He enters the hospital carrying his machete. Honestly, let that fugly Jacobo die. Unfortunately, Jacobo has a gun, and he shoots Mosi dead as soon as he sees him. Killian sees how sad Basila is now that her husband is dead. He tells his brother to leave the island as soon as possible. He has finally reached his limit, and he tells Jacobo to return home and start a new life. After Mosi's death, Basila visits Killian in secret. She has cut her hair. She says Mosi doesn't have any family to claim them, so she'll leave her son to her mother. Then she will live in a hut in the outskirts of town for a year. She needs to hide away from everyone. And after that, she'll be free again to live as she pleases. She explains to Killian that it's a necessary sacrifice. Then she makes him promise never to look for her during that time. As soon as the colony gains independence from Spain, their first president declares the land to be called the Republic of Equatorial Guinea. Tension can be felt everywhere. While walking alone, Killian is taken by a group of natives who want to take revenge. They make him dig his own grave before beating him with shovels. Since Jacobo has managed to flee, they want Killian to take his place. Then Simon arrives and stops them from killing Killian. He explains that Basila and Killian are in love and should be left alone. Simon stays with his friend until he gets better, and Killian starts to work on the plantation to distract himself. Now that Spain has lost its power over the land, the Spaniards are leaving. Julia knows that Killian will not leave without Basila, So she has searched for Basila and takes her back. Basila reveals that she will no longer be able to carry a child, but Killian is content with the family they already have. She has already given birth to a young boy named Laha Fernando. When a ship arrives to take them to Spain, Killian takes Basila and the kids with him. Julia and her family get on the boat first. However, the guards refuse to let Basila leave because she's Guinean. Father Raphael butts in, saying that their marriage document got lost during the riots. The guard explains that Basila can go, but the kids are not allowed to leave. Despite the danger, Killian refuses to leave his family behind. Violence erupts and people are killed as they try to escape. So Killian and Basila decide to return to Sampaca. One day, Basila explains to Killian that they have two kinds of marriages, one that buys virginity and one that is out of love. She confesses that she has only given her heart to Killian. She makes a simple ceremony so they can marry even without the presence of a priestess. It's not bound by law, but they promise to be faithful to each other. They choose to stay in Bissapu, where they finally live as a family. But soon the place burns down, and the Spaniards have to leave the island and never come back. Now armed with the truth, Clarence returns to Pasolabino. She sings to Killian the song she learned from Basila, and for a moment, Killian imagines seeing Basila in the room. When the old man takes his final breath, Clarence immediately sends a letter to Basila, telling her that Killian is gone. Basila reads the letter along with Killian's journal before she marches into the open sea to take her own life. Then after some time, both Inico and Laha travel to Spain to reunite with Clarence and to see where Killian lived after he left. This was a sweet subtitled movie, but I do gotta say that Killian giving that slave a slashing made me side-eye him. The movie was definitely filmed in a Spaniard's point of view, which makes me wonder how historically accurate the story is. If anyone has more insight on the history of the Bioko Islands, I'd be interested. What did you guys think of this one?
Hey, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe now and turn on the notification because YouTube isn't recommending my videos. And if you'd like to watch more foolishness, click here or here.